a traditional Irish song, The Lark in the Clear Air, sung by Jeannie Kelso with Robert Good at the console of the grand organ of the Sydney Town Hall. Jeannie Kelso, who has settled in Adelaide after a long and varied career as a singer. I was delighted finally to meet her and find out how this entire wonderful career began.
I was in a family of Scottish people. Scottish people depend on the youngsters in the families to entertain, so you quickly find the gift that you've got because you had to, it was called pass yourself for your relatives. So I found I could sing, and I was encouraged to sing. My relatives listened to me, school people listened to me, and I think when I was about 9 or 10, I stupidly was sent to a woman who was a rather good singer in the town where I lived, Blantyre. And I tried to copy her, didn't I? So I found somewhere around 11 o'clock, 11 years of age, I became frightened to sing because I had been trying to sing big style with her. So I really stopped at that point, went on to high school, and in that high school, the conductor of the choir had been a member of the Glasgow Orpheus Choir, very famous Scottish choir. And she was very careful of young voices, quite the opposite of where I had been. I joined the choir and began singing the lowest line I could, like, the third down, and we went to festivals and things. And one day, because I was so quiet about the whole thing, and because I would only sing the lower line in case my voice cracked or something, I was talking to someone and she said, "Come out here, young lady," she said, "and sing this line. Now I'm giving you the starting note and you've got to sing it." So I did. And when I had been singing the line, she said, "Look, you come early in the morning to help some of the other girls." So from a very young age, I found that I was helping other people to sing. And she gave me a hymn book. When my voice had gone a bit funny around 9, 10, it was a good favour, really, because at that point I picked up piano lessons. So that was good for my theory. And so she gave me a hymn book and said, if you can play things in that hymn book, just keep practicing there. And when people come in the morning before I arrive, you get them to sing these hymns. It'll do their voice good and it'll do your reading. Very, very wise woman. And so by the time I left school, I had this driving ambition to sing. I didn't care what I worked at. It had really hooked me. So I went for an audition to a chap who was teaching under the Trinity College of Music Centre in Glasgow. Found out where his studio was and decided I've got to get a job near there so as I can pay for the lessons and keep running in. My parents were of the kind that said, well, you can sing. What's there to learn now? So I found that I was going through then the grades of Trinity College, music, solo, singing. And then at that point of time, I just somehow or other decided to have fun with it all. Joined amateur singing clubs, amateur dramatic clubs in Scotland. And didn't treat the singing so seriously. I was up to this point, I'd say I was a mezzo. I had trusted my voice enough to think that maybe I wasn't a contralto. And I was a mezzo. And so it would have been through the examinations and things I was sitting there were in the middle voice grade, which, again, it is a very, very good thing, because if you work on the middle of the voice, the rest grow from that, and so the middle was very sound.
And when did you discover, in fact, that it was the top of the voice that had come back?
Well, I just discovered I had a higher loft. I mean, my voice isn't the highest type of soprano. Richard Gill says I'm a dramatic. I'd never call myself a dramatic, but maybe I am. Because I'm not frightened to chase the lower when I go too. Because I feel quite comfortable there. When did I do that? Well, very stupidly, when I was in Sydney. I mean, the years passed. I had children. I came to Australia. I came single, but then I met, a chap, stayed on. I was having a lot of fun with my singing, not much study. And then I got one singing partner and another. But then we were travelling around Australia, different places we lived, and so I didn't really settle down until I was really quite old again, you might say, around, I think about 36 by then, 38, something like that, and decided I've just got to sing before I die. I think I had a little spell of not wellness at that time, and thought, this gift of mine, now I've had my children, the youngest is coming up to school age, it's my turn. And one thing led to another, and I met these two chaps at a pub down in Paddington in Oxford Street. I really don't know how long you want this interview to go, if I just keep talking. Well, I went to a church. My ex-husband was a preacher. Well, was a minister, Uniting Church minister. And I was on a preaching roster with the minister's wife who were just sent to church. So I went down to preach at church in Paddington. One morning, around this time, the organist played, was the old Jersey Road church. I've always had an affinity for organs and organists. And he said he was playing. The church emptied. After it finished, I said to him, would you play that again? And he said, why? Because I said, I want to stand in this big church and sing it. So he played it, I started singing, and before 2 lines, I think we were both weeping. And he said to me, where are you singing? And I said, well, I've just come over to Sydney from Perth and I'm singing nowhere. He said, you're singing with my choir, that's where you're singing. So I turned up and I didn't realise it was the gay church, the Metropolitan Church Choir. So I was surrounded by these lovely guys who just adored me, my best friends. And of course they could see that, I maybe could do better than what I had done in the past. And I went to the first church service. One guy came up and said, would you give me singing lessons? I said, not in your life, no. But he said, do you have a piano? And I said, yes, it's in need of some repair. He said, I can repair your piano. You give me some singing lessons, I'll repair your piano. And he used to sleep in front of this piano he was repairing. He was actually illegal at that time, but he had been a piano man in Japan. So on the night the piano was finished, he said, come on, I'm taking you two down to the pub. And we went to a pub in Paddington. And I got quite a couple of whiskies there, and there was a lady playing the piano, a brassy, bleached blonde lady who had been around the tracks. And I got quite courageous, and I'm going to start singing here. So I got to my feet and started singing. Subsequently, a couple of guys came out from the back and they said, you could sing with us. And I said, fine. But when I turned up to the practice, I discovered that I was to sing soprano because there was tenor and a baritone, and they needed a soprano. So rather than tell them, oh my God, no, I can't do this, I said, I can do that. So I found myself at the first soiree singing a top D flat from the Trovatore Trio, first of all. Absolutely terrified. But just thinking, I've got to do it. I don't think it would have sounded very well because, I was terrified. So that was the start of it. And from there, from those soirees, there were people came to the soirees, who were just having a day off. And there was a pub down there in Paddington, and the top floor was all done up like a soiree room. And one day I was singing there, and there was some staff from the music staff from the Opera House there. Jack Mates, who was one of the coaches who used to come over with Leonie Mitchell every year. He had been her teacher, so he travelled around with her. He said, you come along and let us hear you. So I went there and for an audition, and they after a bit of persuasion and one thing and another, I finally got into the chorus, and there, that was my place for 20 years, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
It's a big jump from singing in a pub in Paddington to singing on the stage of one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, the Opera House.
Yeah, but when I say I was singing in a pub in Paddington, I had been singing in beautiful churches before then. Singing, well, I would sing wherever people wanted me to sing. Yeah.
Jeannie, I know from my own experience of being in the chorus of the opera company here, you've got to learn, you've got to sing, you've got to dance, you've got to act, you've got to keep out of the way of the principal singers. But you do get a chance to stand up close to some wonderful performers. What's it like being in the chorus of a company like the Australian Opera?
Oh, I loved it. I was there when Dame Joan made her farewells, and to see my photograph sitting as one of her ladies down, just in front of her, I was quite overcome. To see people coming in and saying farewell to Dame Joan, like Placido Domingo didn't come in to sing, but whenever he walked into the house, there was just a gasp when people realised. Yes, I never, to the end of my career, it didn't fail to just thrill me, the amount of people. Baz Luhrmann, I was in a couple of his productions, the famous Bohème, where I was marching around the stage as a madam, a prostitute, and having fun. It's that different role. Because I was older, because I was ambitious to do that job. Everything that came my way, I accepted, and just enjoyed the whole thing. I don't mean you didn't get tired. Weird and wonderful productions, Barry Kosky's productions sometimes, weird and wonderful productions, but just to enter them with that sense of, I'm going to enjoy this.
And of course, you've got to remember what you're doing in 5 or 6 different productions, and any week you may be in 3 of them.
Oh, yes, you're in 3, and probably practicing 3. Probably in the time I was in the company, probably had learned, I think maybe 70, but I'm not sure, maybe not as many as that. All different languages. And then did covers, and then did smallish roles. Lots of cameo roles, so I had extra busy work to do on stage. How I look. I don't mean that I'm not decent to look at. I could always be the granny or the auntie or the housekeeper or, marvellous things, yeah. And just enjoyed doing them all.
But one must stand out. Surely there must be one production you were in that you remember more affectionately than the others.
Well, the last year before I retired, in Traviata, they needed a kind of gypsy woman who was a dancer in the party scene. And they just said, Jenny, we haven't booked that woman who did it, that extra. Do you think you could do it? And I said, oh, yeah. With both, so I come in with bouncing my crystal ball and clicking around. having the time of my life. And yeah, and of course I did sing the role of Anna in Nabucco and Baz Luhrmann's production, and covered the in the dialogue of the Carmelites, the prioress, the main role there, and did get to sing the zits of that. There's just moments of sheer magic. A moment that does stand out. Well, it was a concert performance, in fact, of Turandot, and it was Rita Hunter, big Rita Hunter, standing there with a brilliant red dress and a big bow, and Kenny Collins, you know, the tenor, standing beside her, keeping up with her with his small stature, seeing from, I was right behind the, you know, the drums and things, and that side of the stage, and just to see, you know, the whole musicians going, and old Cilario, there, that was wonderful. He was a great conductor sometimes. Puccini came out of his fingertips. And I remember that day thinking, oh my God, I'm in heaven. But that wasn't on the that was a concert version. But just to see the whole thing coming together, to see the Rosenkavalier with Stuart, what was it, the conductor who...
Stuart Challenger.
Yeah, Challenger, who just decided that before he died, that was something he was going to conduct again. And to see the courage of that man standing there in front of us. Or, you know, I had a couple of decent covers in The Barber of Seville, and it seemed that the whole lot of the singers were going down one after another. It was sheer chaos. And there was a producer, Capecchi, who had once sung the role of in the opera, and very famous in Italy. And it was to his delight, I think, that one of the singers conked out, and when it was on the stage, not before an audience, but in its last stages of production, he jumped up on the stage to sing the role. And when the word got around that he was up there, old Cilaria, his friend, came in, and to see those two old guys together, you know, up there, wonderful. I just can't tell you. I never did feel to be excited by it all.
And now, though you've retired from the hurly-burly of the opera stage, you're still singing?
I am still singing, and I think singing well. I thought perhaps I've got a harp, you know, I sing Scottish music. I thought, well, as an old lady, I could still sit and play the harp and sing. But somehow or other, yes, I was singing a recital last week to the retired music teachers, and I find that I'm singing well enough to enjoy going out there still in front of an audience, and I'm teaching. Mm-hmm.
So how do people find you if they want lessons with a singer of your immense range and experience?
Well, they could phone me. I could give you my phone number if you like. 8248-3295. And yes, I do have some spaces and places, and I'm working with a few young singers just now, and I think that's good to do. Plus, I'm taking two groups. I go from here this morning to Stepney Women's, where I have a group there of probably 8 or 10 women, and it's finding your voice and having the confidence to sing in some sort of presentation. So there's two groups. There's another group up somewhere at Gillis Plains that I'm working with. These are not choirs. These are groups where I want people to just find that release, that joy, that breathing. That is such a good thing for singers.
Jeannie Kelso again, and Robert Good was at the console of the grand organ of the Sydney Town Hall. Suo Gan, a Welsh lullaby.